All right, so today I want to do, actually this is Mati's idea, so it's a really good idea, is to overview the main lessons of scaling Vectel, for the last 10 months, 11 months, I don't know, from 0 to over 10K MRR. It's almost 11K MRR right now. There was like 3-4 months ago, there was a drop to like 7K, but now we're growing again. So I want to cover all the lessons, which right now they're kind of scattered across the classroom, right? We have tons of videos here. Respect to anybody who watched them all. But I guess I'm gonna kind of reminisce since day one and whatever I think like are the highlights, right? Because now I have much better perspective than 10, 11 months ago. So yeah, I mean, I guess I can see what pops into mind. So stage one is obviously choosing the idea. And I think most people overthink the stage. Wait, I'm not sharing this tab. Okay, so most people overthink this. I think one of the main things, everybody talks about product market fit, right? But I would say what's way more important is product founder fit. If you don't care about that industry or that solution or that product, you're not going to make it. Like this is one of the biggest lessons, is also just being the number one user. You have to be the number one user. So if you're working in an industry where like you've never worked there and you don't care about it and you know nothing about it, it's very hard to compete with companies where maybe the other founder of the company actually solves his own problem, right? So the reason I chose the task management productivity space is because I've been using tools like that since I was like 14, 15. And I've used Todoist, I've used ClickUp, I've used Notion. In Todoist, I'm one of the top users in the world. I have like 38,000 tasks completed. So I understood what it takes to, I didn't understand what it takes to build an app like that, but I understood like what the app should look like and what I like about it, what I don't like about it. And also I was solving my own problem, first and foremost, right? The reason why, Claude Code became so good so fast is because all of the engineers at Anthropic building Claude Code were using it every single day. If you don't use your product, especially in software, so like this will be mainly relevant to software, AI startups, but honestly, most of the lessons you can probably apply in any business. But if you don't use your software every single day, I mean, I don't know. I don't think you're going to make it, to be honest, because you're not going to spot the bugs. You're not going to spot like the difficult parts of it to use, the confusing things. When something is bothering you, you can fix it right away. But like if you are not the number one user, you rely on somebody else telling you about it. And even when you have thousands of customers, a lot of them, maybe they are not high taste testers, maybe they don't know something is a bug, or maybe they just don't know how to articulate it. So this is very important. And before you even choose an idea, you have to kind of care about the industry. And by the way, Cursor, the founders behind Cursor, they made the same mistake. So they actually first went into like mechanical engineering, CAD, stuff like that, but none of them were mechanical engineers. And so they wasted like 6 months there. I mean, obviously, it's not wasted. You always learn, right? Like if you're pushing hard in life, if you're doing something challenging, you always learn something. So it's never a waste of time, but it's suboptimal going into a niche where you don't know anything. So these guys, the founders of Cursor, which right now is valued at like over 10 billion, right? It's one of the most successful AI startups. They realized like they don't care about mechanical engineering, but they care about coding and software development. And then they pivoted to building Cursor. And obviously, we all know that now it's a huge success, but it's because they had a great product founder fit. So that's the main thing. So let's see what else is there. By the way, feel free to drop any questions in chat as we go. Mati will read them. And yeah. All right, so here, I guess I'm showing the first version. All right, guys, so I have an exciting thing. So this is, I guess, I used V0 at the time. I don't use V0 anymore because, I mean, it has definitely improved since then. So I think I could probably check it out again. But right now, it's just easier for me to build something, with either Codex or Claude Code and just get a quick UI prototype. I mean, if I was building something from scratch, maybe I would be using tools like V0 or Lovable or Bolt to do the prototyping. But I don't know. I feel like once you get more familiar with, the terminal side, the coding side, you don't want to go back to like these low code, no code tools. Like this is a big fallacy again. It's like vibe code until you can code. I think that's a good lesson. A lot of people are scared of code, but like a lot of times code is the better answer. Just don't force it. Like don't force yourself. Like I have to take this 50-hour course on Rust. Like that's not the way. If you look at all the great geniuses of history, Isaac Newton, Leonardo da Vinci, they were just like, they were not working like forcefully. And I think Naval Ravikant has a great quote about this. It's like, you shouldn't work like a cow, you should work like a lion, where you have these like sprints, these bursts of energy, where something interests you and you just read half the book on that, right? Or like listen to a bunch of podcasts on that topic and learn about that topic, instead of like forcing yourself like, oh yeah, today I have to learn database design. Like nobody achieved greatness like that. So that's another lesson to announce. But really, like a stage one, you need to move fast. Like that's another thing. I got this up and running very fast. Like move fast. You cannot afford, like once you pick an idea, you cannot afford to spend months developing it, especially not in the stage of AI. If you're using Cloud Code, if you're using these tools, like you need to be moving fast. You need to have a front end in a day. You need to have a full stack app in 3 days max. You need to be able to show it to somebody and have testers and stuff like that, because you want to either validate or invalidate the idea very fast. You cannot afford to spend, half a year building the first version before you start collecting payments, stuff like that. It's just like, it's not the time for it. We're in the age of AI where everything moves so fast. So if you take 6 months to release V1, you're just not going to make it. So that's another thing. Like you can see here, like I was making serious progress. Like then I took it from V0 to the cursor, right? And then I was already inside of cursor, which a lot of people would avoid doing that step for a long time. They would be scared of doing it.
All right.
So yeah, that's another lesson. But I think the jump here is actually pretty important, because I instantly took it to a tool that I can fully develop it, right? So like, don't vibe code for too long. Like move it to IDE. Move to an IDE very fast. And some of these, by the way, should be, I guess, stage 2. So I guess stage 1 is probably...
You're showing the wrong screen.
Stage 1 is probably the idea choosing. So stage 2 is going to be this. So stage 1 is choosing the idea. Also, what I did with Vectel, I brainstormed like for a month, spent a month choosing the idea, right? I mean, it depends on your strategy. Like if you just want to go with the strat of like, let's see what sticks, right? Because like, I wasn't trying to build an app that goes viral, makes like a bunch of money for 3 months and then dies. Because like right now, I can give you like an easy example. With Nano Banana, there's going to be so many apps where you can do like specific editing, like mobile apps, right? So either it is like you can edit your own photos to remove something in the background, or you can like edit an image, like an old image, like make it colored, or like girls can check different makeups, or you can test different hairstyles. There's going to be specialized apps like this on the App Store that are going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars for like the next 3 to 6 months, and then they're going to die forever, right? So like, I wasn't interested in doing that. You kind of need to understand like what's your goal, to be honest. I think that's the way to phrase it. Like really get clear about what you want. Like, do you want to build, like I was super clear here, like you can see literally it's right here, and you can call it like being delusional or whatever, but like I was very clear. I want to build a $1 billion AI startup. Like I wasn't trying to just vibe code something and get like 10K, 100K quick money. It's not interesting to me. I wanted to build something big, right? So you need to get clear about what you want, and it's fine. Like if you want to build an app and just make a side income and prove the concept and improve your skills, that's completely fine. But you need to know what you want, because that will impact all of your strategies. It'll impact your marketing strategy. It'll impact whether you should learn how to code. It'll impact how you hire. It'll impact whether you build a mobile app or a web app. It'll impact everything. So really get clear about what you want, and don't second guess your decisions, because that's another thing. Like I never Also, I think this is the Paul Graham 3 pillars. I never like second guessed the idea behind Vectel. So I spent a month choosing the idea. And again, this is because I was clear about I want to pursue this long term. If I wanted to just quickly test something, I would probably test one of the 3 first ideas that comes to my mind, try to prove it within two to 4 weeks, and then move on, right? That would be a completely different process. I wouldn't spend a month choosing the idea. But what I did is I created a Google Doc and I just wrote down problems and solutions. So the way you brainstorm ideas is not just solutions. A lot of people think like, I'm going to build this, but then it isn't solving any problem. It's a solution in search of a problem. So you need to brainstorm ideas where you write down as many different software-related problems and then solutions to them. Like this, problems into solutions. That's how you need to brainstorm. And yeah, I had this Google Doc. I mean, I still probably have it. Like, I can probably look it up. Startup. I think it's linked even in the classroom somewhere. No, Mati.
I'm not sure. I think it's different doc. I can try to find it.
Yeah, I think this is this, to be honest. So yeah, I just did problem and then solution, right? Problem, solution. And I was just brainstorming as many as possible. And then at the end of the 30 days, I chose something. So you need to do this. I think we have this in the classroom. Mati, try to look for it.
Yeah,
But
we have it in the classroom.
yeah, Mati will link in the chat. But that's how you brainstorm ideas. You don't want to build a solution in search of a problem. You want to select the problem and then build a solution around it. So my problem was that I was spending 20 to 40 minutes a day just organizing my task list, right? Because I get a lot of ideas and then organizing them, prioritizing them takes a long time. So that was the problem. And the solution was an AI-powered task manager, which is Vectel. And also the Paul Graham advice, Paul Graham 3 pillars of a great idea. This is something that applies as well. I think the 3 pillars are something that you see that others don't see, that you can build, and that I can actually look it up probably. What are Paul Graham's 3 criteria for great startup ideas? I think it's something like seeing something that others don't see, that you're uniquely qualified to build, stuff like that. Research exactly what he said. I think this applies really well to knowing whether you chose the right idea. Yeah, so this is it, right? Boom. Let me switch back. So something the founders themselves want. So you need to want this to exist. Otherwise, you're not going to work on it every day. Like if you don't really care, like, I can easily spend 10 hours a day working on Vectel. But admittedly, I probably cannot spend 10 hours a day recording content. That's way more demanding, takes way more energy. I definitely cannot spend 10 hours a day working on something I don't care about. Like in school, I cannot pay attention when I was in school. Obviously, I'm not in school anymore, but like I couldn't pay attention to subjects I didn't care about. And I think it's the same after you leave school. Like if you work on something you really don't care about, you will not dive deeply enough, right? So then you have to figure out like how, like this is why the idea matters most. People think the idea matters most because like if I choose the wrong idea, the market will not like it. I'll not the customers. No, like this is the Jeff Bezos advice. You kind of have to love it more than others because then you outcompete them because you have the product founder fit. So product founder fit is infinitely more important than product market fit. I mean, product market fit is still important, and I would say I still haven't fully reached it with Vectel, but product founder fit is what keeps you going, right? Because if you want to be successful in business, you have to realize all you have to do is kind of improve and don't quit. Like that's honestly the secret to anything in life. Just it's like a 2-step. It's like
David, can I interrupt you for a quick second? Just on Paul Graham's 3-part test.
Yeah.
The thing where it says something the founders themselves want, right? There's one substitute for that, which is if you have a really good relationship with customers and you're talking to them all the time, that customer development replaces that something the founders themselves want. Because you're talking to them, you're getting all of their feedback, and you're incorporating that back in, that will work, right? Like, because there's lots of products you create, you may not necessarily be the person in that industry. I mean, think about how often that happens, that you're the guy in that specific product niche already, and you know it. Lots of businesses don't get started that way. I mean, the guys who did Airbnb, they didn't. You know what I mean. Anyway, I just thought I would make that.
It's a good example. Like, for example, Palantir. I think I was listening to the podcast of the CEO of Palantir, and they had this forward deploy engineers, right? Which is basically they literally sent a developer to the front lines of like a war, right? So like Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever. And because these guys were building the software for the military. And this is exactly what you're saying, Daniel, because these guys don't need a software themselves, because if they're not soldiers or generals or whatever. But if you want to build a great software, you kind of have to be on the front lines with the customer. So then the second best thing is literally sitting next to your users or your customers and looking how they use it, what they need, what's missing and stuff like that. So yeah, that is the second thing. You like, if you like, there are some industries where you're not going to be the number one user. In that case, you need to be like you need to be next to the number one user. You need to be sitting like right next to the front lines, not to the politician that's making decisions, right? Not to the manager 3 levels up that's like making the order. You need to be sitting next to the person in that company who's actually going to be using your software. So yeah, that's a really good point. And the other points are something the founders themselves can build, right? So like maybe you say, okay, I don't like Linux, I don't like Windows, I don't like macOS. I'm going to build a new operating system. It's like, if you're not like a Foundry-X developer, like good luck, you're probably not going to build that. So you also need to believe that you can build it. You need to be aware of like your skill set. And then obviously with AI, you can probably do a lot more than you couldn't without AI, but still you probably cannot build a new kernel, or like, few people can build a rocket company like Elon. You have to realize your level of competence or your skill set to actually be realistic if you want to have success in the short to medium term. I mean, if you have like, if you're thinking like really long term, it doesn't matter. Like if you think about 50 years, the greatest entrepreneurs just stay in the game longer than everybody else. Now, obviously, you still want to grow fast, but I think it's Gary Vee who has this saying. It's like macro patience, micro urgency or impatience, right? So like on the day-to-day, you should be pushing fast. You should be like attacking the timelines. But in terms of the business plan, it should be like decades. You shouldn't be like, okay, how do I make the most money in this next 6 months? You're never going to build a great company if you're asking yourself, how do I make the most money in the next 6 months? Look at Amazon. It took them like 20 years to become profitable, right? So, and obviously it's a great company because all of us are using Amazon. So this is the loop. Improve and don't quit. If you are lacking the technical skills, all you just need to do is improve a bit every day, right? Like buy a book, read a few pages every day, or use AI to learn a bit, or like write some, take 2 lessons of a course on, go into the classroom, like watch a new module, whatever, and then just don't quit, right? Like if you do these 2 things, sooner or later, you will achieve success. Like that's how life works. But specifically for a software startup, this is very true. So I never was like, as soon as I picked Vector as the idea, it wasn't like, oh, well, I guess if I'm not making this much by this month, I'm going to quit. Like once I was confident in the idea and I wanted it to exist, it wasn't a matter of like, is it worth doing? I was like, okay, let's think about from first principles, right? That's another thing from Elon. AI is going to be disrupting everything, okay? I think all of us agree on that on this call. The next thing is like, okay, we already see it disrupting search, Perplexity. We already see it disrupting code, Cursor, Windsurf, whatever. There is nothing in the task management, productivity space, right? So that was my reasoning when I started Vector. It's like, okay, is AI going to be used in task management productivity? I mean, the obvious answer is yes. There's no way people are going to be doing manual repetitive actions by themselves that an AI agent could easily do. So just thinking from first principles, I was like, okay, a company like this will exist sooner or later. Maybe it will take a few years if I don't do it, but it will exist. So like, okay, then I'm just going to do it. And if you have this like from first principles thinking, you don't care about what MRR you're making on month 2. You don't care about like, oh no, I'm still unprofitable, or like I don't have enough customers, or I don't know if it's going to work. Because if you go from the first principles, you know it's going to work eventually, right? So then you push on just making that eventually happen sooner, instead of like questioning yourself day to day and like second guessing yourself. And that's a huge weakness. Because like there's in business, you have enough difficulties. Like you don't want to be your own enemy.